Kasanyoka K, Commissioner Decker, Commissioners, my name is Jordan Thompson. I'm an attorney for the CSKT tribes. Your constituents want to keep the density map and regulations as regulatory. They've said to keep them over and over now. Commissioner Barron, during a 2016 hearing on the DMRs, he said that 80% of the constituents wanted to keep them as regulatory from the comments you've received. Over this past summer, your consultant, Land Solutions LLC, conducted 2 surveys, and the results were similar. 68.5% opposed repealing the DMRs and simply addressing its goals within the growth policy. Only 11.3% support the idea of repeal and replace, which repeals the DMRs as regulations and replaces that with advisory language in the growth policy. Heck, at a meeting that the tribes had at the commissioners, Commissioner Decker said that you yourself would like to keep the DMRs as regulatory if you were a selfish man. So if the majority of the constituents want to keep them, what's the problem? I believe the answer to that is false assumptions. Commissioner Decker, at one of the first DMR hearings, you said that being a former math teacher, you don't like making decisions based on false assumptions. So I'd like to talk about some of the reasoning I'm hearing from the commissioners for reasons to repeal and replace the DMRs and how these are based on false assumptions. A lot of the reasons I hear for repeal and replace have been blamed on the tribes. First, let me say that the tribes have followed the density map since its adoption 13 years ago, 100% of the time. The tribes follow the density map 100% of the time, always. Nevertheless, you have said that the problem with the DMRs is that they aren't regulatory for the tribes, and that isn't fair to the county. The tribes offered a solution by proposing to enter into an MOU with the county that would make the density map regulatory for CSKT by passing a tribal law saying the density map would be regulatory. Commissioner Decker responded at the last planning board meeting by saying the tribal resolution is not legally binding. A tribal resolution is a tribal law per the tribe's constitution and bylaws, so we enforce those. To say that a tribal law is not legally binding for the tribes is a false assumption and an alarming one. You've also argued the other side of the coin, saying that because the DMRs are only advisory to the tribes, and that has worked well for us, that you too would like to have them as advisory. CSKT has voluntarily followed the density map 100% of the time for 13 years. So to say that this is just advisory for the tribes when we always follow it is ignoring facts. It's making another false assumption. Another thing that Commissioner Decker said is keeping the DMRs suppresses land values, which helps the tribes buy land back. But then you also say that changing the DMRs to advisory won't change anything. So if it doesn't change anything, how is it helping the tribes buy our land back? The only way that this works is if you believe that making the DMRs advisory will increase land value, making it harder for the tribes to purchase. But that's an awfully big assumption to make that I haven't seen proven, especially when you consider what the tribes do when we do buy land back. We make it beautiful and accessible to the public. Look at the stream restorations we do. Look at the wildlife habitat we protect. I'd say keeping and restoring the natural beauty of this place and making it accessible to the public increases land values for those that live here in this pristine county. Another reason that you've given for the repeal and replace of the DMRs is that the DMRs aren't legal. And while the county hasn't been sued on the DMRs in 13 years, as an attorney I can understand wanting to be proactive. We've done our own legal review and we found that they've been legal. But you said, well, you're the ones who have to defend it. Well, your Deputy County Attorney, Wally Congdon, has said that if the growth policy is written in a way to support the DMRs, it'd be a lot easier to defend them. I think there's an obligation to try that option, since that's what your constituents want before deciding to eliminate the DMRs as regulatory. I bet if you asked Wally if he could help draft a growth policy to support the DMRs to be legal and then look at revising the DMRs, given his experience in county planning and the law, I have confidence that he could make those legal. Determining that the DMRs are illegal before even exploring whether they can be made legal is making a decision based on a false assumption. So let's put these false assumptions aside and work together. At the February meeting between the CSKT Council and you and the tribes talked about how we all want to work together. What better place to work together than on a document that the community overwhelmingly believes in and supports? Commissioner Decker, in a 2016 interview with the Lake County Leader, you said that if there was a motion to repeal the density map, that you will have to update the growth policy with a lot of citizen input. Right now, that's what your planning board is doing, updating the growth policy and listening to Lake County citizens' input in doing so. So I ask you, commissioners, let the process play out and see what your planning board and constituents can come up with. I have full confidence it will be a well thought out, community-oriented plan. To make any decisions before that will be based on false assumptions, and I know nobody likes to make decisions based on those. Thank you.